Activision falling over in the UK. How have the second-tier publishers fared?
Well, what's happened is that everyone's been paying very slowly, but none of the second-tier publishers that I've been using for the last 9 years have gone. I must admit that some of my Russian friends have been the slowest paying I've ever seen, but they pay, and their sales are improving, and actually some very good titles came out. There's a little company, I don't know if you've heard of them, involved in the States, called Stardock Games. Yes, Stardock. They're a little indie company, and they started life with a game called Galactic Civilizations, and they moved on sequels to this, and then the most recent, which is now over 2 years old, was Sins of a Solar Empire. Now, that blitzed them in the States, and won the best indie title of the year, and I sold 30,000 copies of that title here, which for a little small second-tier publishing company is terrific, and also a small, very small development company, but they have it right. And if it's right, the people will buy it all the time.
Are they more inclined to take risk?
They got on to what was a pretty good franchise, and they built on it. And the best of the titles was Sins of the Solar Empire. But again, with all these wonderful young creative people, they've now gone off on a tangent to make some new futuristic game. And I said, just keep going on what you're doing, you know. But there is a sequel coming out called Trinity in February, thank goodness, to Sins. But they're all busy with some other new idea, and this, unfortunately, happens a lot. It happened with me. Our first game was Dark Reign, and the creator of that, Greg Lane, he couldn't wait to do something different. And we should have just kept doing Dark Reign forever and ever, and be up to Dark Reign 10 by now. And I could have retired after all.
Well, make sure if startup that are required by THQ and Activision, you get some sort of commission on that. Bob, I've got a bit of a big question here for you. There's an opinion that GDC 2010 and Game Connection in San Francisco March next year will herald pretty much the end of the crisis, and those waterfalls of production cash will begin to flow again. So my question, especially from an Activision point of view, is what do you think the risk appetite of the publishers will be? And are we going to see an even greater investment in the established brands, or to the detriment of the catalogue fillers, which have really sustained the rest of the industry? Or how do you see it playing out?
Well, I think it's still kind of to be determined. I think the results of Q4 and the results of Q1 are really going to determine what GDC 2010 is for each publisher. It's going to be very specific. A lot of people have pushed out product into Q1 because they didn't want to compete with the Call of Duties and the other big titles that are out now. So I'm not entirely sure yet, but I think it's safe to say that there will be a continued, risk-averse approach to retail product, as Graham was talking about. We're not going to make many new bets. The focus will continue to be on big franchises, on sequels, and on licenses. So we will be investing in our own brands as opposed to probably picking up new IP or other things. Now, some other publishers might have some holes to fill in, and there may be opportunities there, but I think, the more interesting opportunities that will come up at GDC will be in the downloadable space, they'll be in the social networking space, and in the iPhone space. I think that's a new consumer that publishers are kind of aware of. They're non-traditional gamers. They're huge. The FarmVilles of the world are making tons of money. So I think you'll see a lot of publishers really focusing on that aspect and trying to get that consumer, and I think there will be a lot of investment there and a lot of opportunity.
Derek, you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the Facebook and the iPhone applications, there is a lot of opportunity there, and I think there's going to be money being going into those areas. I don't know if there's a lot of money coming out of there, but I think I think companies will use them to leverage their brand and get their brand in front of people that may not normally be exposed to it.
Well, let's stay in digital for a minute then, because digital distribution is pitched as the obvious threat to bricks and mortar traditional retail. But let's be realistic about this. What sort of timeline are we looking at before digital distribution becomes all pervasive? And more importantly, are the publishers developing a digital distribution strategy going forward?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, you know, the PC, on the PC side of things, there's very strong digital distribution options. You've got Steam and Direct to Drive and a lot of places like that. You know, I think it makes sense to pick your battles. You know, THQ came out very strongly with a digital distribution strategy for Dawn of War 2. And that's seen an enormous amount of sales and an enormous part of our revenue from that game come just from our digital distribution methods. And in addition to Steam, we've got our own digital distribution portal, as does EA and a few others. So yeah, I think in terms of the PC side of things, if you're focused and you pick the certain titles that you want to really highlight on digital distribution, it'll be very lucrative. I still think there's a barrier to entry there. People like a boxed product, in particular all these new markets that we're seeing, the girls, the women. I think they prefer to go into a store and purchase something not as comfortable downloading stuff. So EA is betting that, you know, digital distribution will be very big, and Rick Catello was saying last week that it was you know, going to be something that they were looking to move into very heavily next year. I don't think it's going to come about quite that quickly, but yeah, the writing is certainly on.
So the publisher model will have to change, but it's not going to go away.
No.
I mean, some people are genuinely seeing this as the great white hope for developers, is that, you know, we won't require publishing anymore, we can do it ourselves, make billions of money and then retire to the Bahamas after one product.
Yeah, but retail will never go away. All that's happening is the market's just getting bigger and bigger as new markets are emerging. I brought this along because we released this today, and this is our latest copy of Train. So that's a game that I've been doing for 10 years. And it's a real niche product. You've got to love trains to want to even go near this thing. It's absolutely, every rivet's in the right place, every handle's in the right place. But this first version of 2010 is only released for electronic download. And it's only released on my site. And the retail doesn't come out until March. It'll be tweaked. This version will be tweaked, and we get a lot of feedback from the early adopters. But it's a godsend to a company my size, that's for sure, because it's a very good income earner before you go through the regular channels where you're often waiting, you know, 3 or 4 months to get paid, and by the time everyone's had a bit of it, there's not that much left for you. So I see that growing and growing, but to me, retail will always be there. It's just the market's getting bigger. It's like, my favourite analogy is pizzas. Remember the days you go to pizza, you buy a pizza, take it home, and then somebody got the bright idea of delivering it. And all they did was expand an existing market from a $4 billion market to a $5 billion market. It was the same product. The market just got bigger, just had a little innovation. And that's what digital download, and companies like Steam, I mean, my earlier version of Trains, Steam sold an enormous amount. It was fantastic. Better than most retail outlets. But still, retail will never go away. And it's interesting, even when people order now online, it's still 75% want us to post them this, they want to hold, and 25% is just a straight digital download. I actually see that changing to more and more digital download.
Okay, well let's stick with Trains then. How difficult has the process been for you? And what are the stumbling blocks been?
Well, I'll tell you the first stumbling block. When we did Trains, to come out in October 2001, we were busily developing it, and I think it cost us about $3 million for the original development. And we found out in August that there was another train simulator coming out. And And do you know who it was made